We are officially 3 weekends away from SEC play. With that being said, there are a few teams in the hunt for the SEC title this year. We'll sit down with Devonair D. Jackson to discuss who is this year's front runner. All this and more coming up next on Heisman Talk. We are officially 1 week away from the ACC starting conference play, and there's still a lot more to talk about. This week, we'll talk about our top three SEC teams. Joining me now, my co-host, Devonair D. Jackson. D, how are you doing?
Doing good, Nate. How are you?
I'm doing good. Hanging in there. D, we came into the show today thinking that Georgia was the front runner with Jamie Newman. Obviously, we know he opted out on Wednesday, and it kind of shakes things up. We kind of wonder, well, who's next? Obviously, we agree that the top three front running teams in the SEC still, in no particular order, are Alabama, Georgia, and Florida. Let's start off with the Alabama Crimson Tide. Obviously, this is a team under Nick Saban that has thrived for the past decade. And, last year they kind of suffered a little bit. Again, Nick Saban looks to get back this year. D, what do you see in the Crimson Tide this year that'll get them back to the SEC championship?
Yeah, Nate. I think that all depends on their quarterback situation. I think they're a very, very talented team. But they were talented last year. They lost Tua. He was injured a lot. But they get Dylan Moses. Coming back at that linebacker spot. He's going to be able to fortify that defense and make calls in the middle of that defense. They still have Najee Harris at running back. They still have Patrick Surtain at corner. So, they have a lot of pieces, a lot of weapons. Jalen Waddell at receiver, Devontae Smith at receiver. So they still have weapons. It's all really going to come down to that quarterback position. Like you said, Alabama missed the college football playoff since the first time since the college football playoff was started. So for them to get back to how they play, they're going to have to really, really stop teams because their defense was horrendous last year. And I think Dylan Moses will will definitely help them stop teams this year. So
Absolutely, absolutely. And a lot would say that the offense struggled. Having to switch back from Tua to Mac Jones probably wasn't the best situation for Alabama. Now they have confidence in one quarterback alone, someone who hasn't struggled with many injuries. Like you said, they bring back Najee Harris at running back, obviously loaded in the backfield, and then they also have some weapons on the outside in Waddle and Smith, who are both projected to be in the first round. So it's going to be kind of tough to beat them. Followed up with a really strong offensive line, a veteran offensive line at that. But like you said, I think the key for Alabama to get back to the SEC championship this year is their defense. Defense struggled last year. Obviously lost to LSU, and they rarely lose to LSU. So having a guy like Dylan Moses back there as a captain is really, really going to help them. One of the teams that they'll be playing on November 7th, that being the Georgia Bulldogs, is also in the running for an SEC title again this year. Finished last year with a loss to LSU in the SEC championship, but still controlled the East. This year, they were expecting Jamie Newman to come in and kind of take over, a grad transfer from Wake Forest. Now they turn to JT Daniels coming in from USC, who sat out all of last year with an ACL injury, recovering. Now he comes in, he gets to form around a pretty interesting situation. A brand new offensive coordinator in Todd Monken, who spent last year with the Cleveland Browns helping Baker Mayfield in the previous 3 years under the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So an experienced offensive coordinator like that is going to really help. They lost both of their left tackles, like you were saying. So offense is going to be interesting. What can you tell me about their defense that's really going to push them over this year to the SEC championship?
Well, like you were saying, there's a lot of question marks. You got JT Daniels. At the quarterback position, you have Dwan Mathis behind him. Everybody thought it was going to be Jamie Newman as the guy. But with Jamie Newman opting out, so now you have those two guys. They're both not clear for contact right now. They're both recovering from injuries that they suffered last year. Dwan Mathis with the brain cyst that he had last year, and JT Daniels with the ACL. So that quarterback room it got a little bit thinner, but it's still very talented. So we're going to see exactly how that pans out. In order to get back to where they were last year, it's going to come on defense, man. They had one of the best defenses in the nation last year. They returned 8 starters on defense, and you got a lot of young guys that were freshmen last year, like Nolan Smith and Kobe Dean and Trayvon Walker. You have those guys, and they're going to be sophomores this year, so they have a year of experience under their belt. And I think that defense could possibly get even stronger when you bring back guys like Richard LeCounte and Jordan Davis. So we're definitely going to have to see how that looks on the defensive end and the offensive end as well, especially with new OC Todd Monken. So.
And not to mention, they bring over Matt Luke as an offensive line coach from Ole Miss, who kind of took over the role for Sam Pittman and also co-offensive coordinator. I think the offensive line, although they're young, is going to be the difference maker for Georgia this year, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, they have really, really talented guys. Sam Pittman did a great job there. Matt Luke came in and, kept a lot of guys in this class. And so I think it's really going to, I think that offensive line is really going to have to gel and come together. They're really talented. They don't have a lot of years of experience as far as on the edges are concerned, but on the inside they're pretty stout on the inside with experience. So yeah, I think they'll be all right on the offensive line.
And then we go to our final team, last but not least by any means, and that's the Florida Gators. The Florida Gators finished 11-2 last year, 6-2 in the SEC, only losing to Georgia and LSU, who obviously both appeared in the SEC championship. So you have a pretty good season when you only lose to the two guys in the conference championship. So how can Florida bounce back, D?
Well, with Florida, it starts with the quarterback, Kyle Trask. We talked about with Georgia and Alabama, they kind of have quarterback questions. With Florida, they don't have any quarterback questions. They're a really talented team. They bring back Kyle Pitts, at the tight end, Kyle Pitts. They bring back receivers like Kadarius Toney and Trevion Grimes. And so they're really, really talented. We don't know exactly how their offensive line will look. That kind of it wasn't very great last year. It was decent last year. On defense, they bring back 5 starters. So, losses like Jonathan Bernard, the defensive end, and Zubinga, I think his name was, at the defensive end. Those are going to hurt. But I think with Kyle Trask and with the Dan Mullen ran offense, I think that they could have good things happen in the SEC this year for them.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And also, not to mention, they bring in Miami transfer Lorenzo Lingard at the running back position, and you have to think that's gonna play into this year as well. D. I mean, this is a Florida team that has had success in the past game. Obviously, Kyle Trask finished 3rd in QBR behind only Tua and Joe Burrow last year. So, of course, I mean, they have a lot of trust and confidence in Kyle. But I think getting him some help in the backfield is going to make a huge difference this year for the Florida Gators. So with that being said, D, I have to ask you, out of these 3 teams, who do you have winning the SEC?
Man, it's tough. It's tough. At first I had Georgia, with Jamie Newman. I thought he was going to, provide make that offense explosive and have the ability to escape the pocket. But now I think I'm going to have to go, back with Alabama. Alabama, they bring back, a lot of talented guys on that defense. I can't see a Nick Saban defense playing the way it played last year, and so I think their offense will be explosive. I really think Bryce Young will probably end up winning that job. Maybe not at first, but he's just an explosive athlete. And so we've seen that Alabama offense, with an explosive athlete. And so I think, Alabama will end up beating Georgia in the SEC championship.
It's an interesting prediction. And I think at this point, it's anyone's game, D. I mean, things are changing by the minute in college football. We could wake up tomorrow and not even have a season. Hopefully, we will, though. I'm going to have to go with the Georgia Bulldogs. I think their defense is just too stout. They bring back a lot of veteran experience. Even the young guys, like you mentioned, Nolan Smith and Nakobe Dean, they're going to be the playmakers that make the difference this year. I don't think it really matters who's playing quarterback when you have an offensive line and you have those running backs like Zamir White and James Cook in the backfield for you. I think anything is possible in play action, screen game, and deep ball. It's going to be all open for Todd Monken and those Georgia Bulldogs this year.
Yeah, man. If Todd Monken can come in and make Georgia's offense explosive, that's going to make the defense even better because they're not going to have to be on the field as long. And so, I can definitely see that happening. But I'm going to have to go with Bama on this one.
Well, we shall see, D. We shall see. November 7th. Mark your calendars. That's going to be one heck of a game. So, D, I wanted to wrap up this show. Obviously, we'll start making our weekly picks next week with the ACC playing. But there's a particular game this Monday night that everyone's going to be tuning into. That is Navy versus BYU. As of now, BYU is favored by 1.5. I'm not really sure what the spread is. But D, who's your pick for this game?
I'm gonna have to go with BYU, man. That Navy offense is tough to stop. The triple option, and so. But I think that BYU has had enough time to prepare for it. I think they'll come out and end up, beating Navy. So.
Great pick, D. But I'm going to have to go with the Navy midshipmen.
Nice.
I think that Navy comes off of an impressive season last year, and I think they followed up with a win on Monday night to start off the season. Well, D, we really appreciate you coming on again. Next week, when we come back, we're going to talk about the Big 12. We'll wrap up our 3-week series with the top 3 teams in each conference that are playing this fall. I'd also like to mention that we have a new blog out on HeismanTalks.blog. So make sure to go check that out when you get some free time. Got some really great articles about each conference, few hot topics going on around the nation right now in college football. Until next week, make sure to subscribe, like this video, share it with your friends, and get ready because college football is right around the corner. Until next time, stay safe. And this is Nate Dogg and D signing off.